My dear students, today we are discussing critical theory. We have discussed that Karl Marx was very optimistic and very sure about the revolution, and he was saying that uh, humanity has reached, in the Western Europe, of course, at a critical stage of capitalist development, and uh, classes of proletariat and bourgeois, and ultimately proletariat would bring about a revolution. They have developed, or they will develop soon, a revolutionary consciousness. And we have also seen that his theory of dialectical materialism, we will briefly review dialectical materialism. Dialectics means clash of opposites. Karl Marx borrowed the idea of dialectics from Hegel. And materialism means that the ultimate reality is matter and not consciousness or spirit. So the clash of opposites in the material world or in economic world drives the history, moves the society. So all history basically is the movement of society, and the motor of this movement is clash of opposites in the economic field. So economics and the clash of opposites, or clash of the economic forces, or clash of the classes, the oppressed and the oppressors. So this clash of economic forces develop a new system, yield a new system, and in this way history moves. So he has, we have seen that how he has given a philosophy of history basically, in which from the age of primitive communism to age of slavery to age of feudalism to age of capitalism, and now after this capitalism there would be age of socialism, in which this clash of opposites, the clash between bourgeois and proletariat, would bring about a revolution, when a revolution and a new society would emerge where there would be no contradictions and no classes. So history is moving toward a classless society, the ultimate utopia of Karl Marx. He also says that economics is the base or the substructure, the foundation, and all other institutions, religion and culture and philosophy and politics, all are superstructure. The building, the superstructure rests on the foundation. So economic mode of uh, system basically that determines all other things, that determines superstructure. This is the central idea of Marx's concept of society, that economics determines every other thing, including consciousness. So consciousness of a person, for example, or consciousness of a community is not something which is determined by the subject, rather it is determined by the objective place of that person in the class structure. So it is not the agency, it is not that person who can go beyond his times. A person is, a person's thought and a community's thought is determined by, is bounded by the economic conditions. So if we want to understand the ideas of a particular person or a particular community, we'll have to think that how those ideas are products basically of the economic uh, system and the economic forces. So it means that Marx says that consciousness always depends on economics. This is the central idea. But the problem with this theory, as later on exposed by critical theorists, is that if consciousness is always determined by the ruling ideas, Marx said that ideas of rulers are the rulers of ideas. Ideas of rulers are the rulers of ideas. So if this is the case, and ideas of rulers would always prevail, and subject cannot develop its consciousness beyond what is determined by economics and the upper classes, then how the proletariat would be able to develop? revolutionary consciousness, how they would be able to think beyond what is there in the society, and they would imagine a new society and they would bring about a revolution. This is the major theoretical problem in Marxist philosophy. And critical theorists basically picked this. And why they were able to see it was because Marx's prediction never came true. And there was no revolution in Western Europe, particularly. There was a revolution in Russia in 1917 and later on in China, but those societies were underdeveloped. And those revolutions do not basically conform to Marxist theory, classical orthodox Marxist theory. So so this problem that Marxist revolution was not in the advanced world, in the capitalist world, and capitalism was able to resolve its, it seems to us, its contradictions, and those contradictions were never, I mean, they came to the stage of a revolution. So this was the problem. This problem was addressed by all the neo-Marxists. This is basically a challenge to all the neo-Marx, Gramsci, for example. These intellectuals were trying to explain why and where Marx was not able to see in depth the problems of capitalist society. So they see that Marx's major problem is determinism. So this point that economics always determines culture. So Marx basically underestimated the significance of superstructure or culture. So, and they say that consciousness is independent. So critical theorists were basically German, most of them were German intellectuals in early 20th century, in the first quarter of 20th century, and they developed an institute at Frankfurt. That's why it's also called Frankfurt School. And most important of these theorists are Horkheimer, Horkheimer, Adorno, and Marcuse. They later uh, went to United States when there was uh, anti-Semitism in the, because they were Jews, and they continued their work there. And this is perhaps the most important perspective in sociology and philosophy, critical theory. And these intellectuals and others, they, as we have discussed, that they were trying to explain the problem of modern society, how modern society has able to perpetuate its oppression. And they say that Marxist theory uh, is only concerned with economic variables, and it defines the oppression only in economic terms. But the problem is more than just economics in the modern society. And as this, they said that they have, these theorists, critical theorists, they have taken insights from many other fields, from psychology. So they can be called neo-Marxist and neo-Freudians. And they have taken insights from literature, literary theory. They have taken insights from philosophy, from Hegel, for example. So basically, critical theory is an interdisciplinary project, and this is an effort in theory to go beyond the boundaries of disciplines and to see and to explain and to uh, understand what is going on in modern society. So they basically took insights from Hegel, particularly Weber's concept of rationalization of society, and Marx, of course, and Freud. So they say that consciousness is not free, and proletariat were not able to bring revolution because of the problems of consciousness, and they were not seeing things as they must have seen, as Marx was optimistic about the revolution. So the capitalist class was able to control the thought of people. This is the central idea of critical theory. They were able to control the consciousness, and consciousness is something which can be controlled. Marx was saying that consciousness is always linked to economics, and they just control economics, and consciousness just follows economics. But critical theories say that they control basically consciousness, they control thought of people, and through thought they control every other thing. It does, I mean, they do not deny that they do not control economics. Economics is always there, but in modern society the oppression is basically on thought and consciousness, and people are denied of their ability to make a critique. They say that the essence of human being is to negate. Negate is a technical term here. Negate means ability to make a critique. So this ability to make a critique is denied to modern man. He or she is just think in terms of what is given to him. As we commonly say, he's just consumer. He watches movies, he reads cheap novels, he reads all that stuff, and through those methods, through culture industry, thought is controlled, and he has no time basically to think beyond what is in the immediate environment. So, in this way, they developed a critique on the culture industry. They developed a critique on the way science has been done, and the way research is being done, in which the positivistic perspective in social sciences, which claims that things can be objectively and in a way which is they call value neutrality. Things can be examined by becoming neutral in terms of values. Critical theories say that values are always there in the research, and you cannot be objective in that sense that you just deny values, and you treat human situation just like you are examining electrons and protons. So human situation is always value laden. Values are always there. The question of good and bad, or question of, for example, uh, true liberty or oppression, is always there. For example, it is possible that some scientist, on the basis of quantitative analysis, he proves that poverty is necessary for society, for the efficiency and effectiveness of society. So this kind of research can be proven, and actually some economic economists have done that. So, but the question of values is always there, and human. So they say they have taken insight from Max Weber, who, for example, said that there are two kinds of rationalities. One is substantive rationality, and the other is instrumental rationality. Substantive rationality is the essence of human being. It is the reason to think about the ultimate purpose. And the instrumental rationality, on the other hand, is confined to the means, is confined to the understanding of how this thing can be accomplished effectively and efficiently. So, for example, if a board of governors of a particular uh, company, they are making a debate, or they are studying something, they would never raise this question that what is the ultimate benefit of all this activity, but they would always plan, calculate, and study to maximize the profit. So means, I mean, they are confined to just means, and they would never raise the question, and they would never challenge. No one would challenge, and it would seem ridiculous to them that one is talking about the ultimate thing, or the purpose, or the values. So the question of purpose and values and the ends is taken by the substantive rationality. Instrumental rationality, for example, I mean, people of management, for example, they just manage. So they can be intelligent people, but they are confined to managing a given situation, right? So the problem with modern society is that technological rationality or instrumental rationality is replacing the substantive rationality. So this, I mean, they have taken this insight from Weber, and different critical theorists have their own terms for the difference between these two kinds of rationality, right? You can see in your reading literature. They have made a critique on positivism, critical theorists, and they have made a critique on culture industry, and how the oppression is now not just on, I mean, it's not just economic exploitation, but basically it is now controlling the thought of people. This is the main idea of critical theory. Thank you very much.